This episode of GuildCast is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to GuildCast, episode 68 for April 17th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I'm Gary Gannon, and coming up on today's show, why does my fireball go backwards in WvWs? John Peters is going to talk about some new weapons, and it's time to go mining in style. And by that, I mean in lava. All that and more, plus, of course, your viewer questions. But first, funmassively.com. It's Alexa with Claire.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
I'm the boat boss. Are you the boat boss?
Boats can't fly. Pro tip. Got to show for pre-show. Show for pre-show. And it's Mr. Procopio.
Hello. You actually sung my name too. Good. I'm doing well.
I did. I'm in a singing mood.
Good. I like that.
I told you it was going to be a sing-along guild cast.
Leviathan means big.
Leviathan means big.
Yes, it does.
Great trailer. Okay. So, talk about some Guild Wars too. So, in the upcoming patch, ArenaNet are going to change how skills work between PvE and WvWs. We talked about this last week, and if I remember correctly, you guys did not think that they were going to do this, did you? Did this come out of a surprise?
Yeah, I kind of think I lumped last week. I said something about PvE versus world, and I mean PvE and world versus PvP. And now it looks like they've got their eye on actually splitting it down into 3 different sections if they need to. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see that, but not probably a good thing to do. Now that you think about it, they obviously they're different play styles, different things are good. I think, for example, like one thing where you try to reduce the pet damage, right? That your pets for rangers and like necros will take in an AoE environment. That's a good change for PvE, right? Because you don't want them dying all the time in dungeons for all the mass AoE, but not necessarily the best thing to have in world versus world. So to lump that together is not a good thing. So this probably this probably bodes well for some changes that are coming in that'll help distinguish the 2 play styles.
Why the change of heart? Because last week, I think both of you guys, everybody thought there was kind of definitely something. Neither of you, I think, thought that they were going to do something like this, and now it sounded like a good idea.
I just don't think we expected it, not because it would have been a bad idea, just because I don't know that it seemed like super apparently necessary, and I don't know that we're going to see as many PvE world versus world splits as we're going to see PvE PvP splits. But I mean, they are very different playstyles, just in terms of the mass of people that you have when you have, 500 skills going off in an area because you've got 100 people on each side casting all the time. You just have to balance things differently. So it's probably very sensible, but it's not something that I necessarily expected right away.
What do you think about it? I mean, in general, I mean, obviously they sounds like they think it's obviously necessary. Do you think it's a good move or a bad move, Lex?
I think it's good to get used to the idea up front, so even if they don't have to make a lot of changes now, they can in the future, and just to make sure that people are kind of comfortable with that. It's kind of like at the beginning when we weren't sure if there was going to be a PvE PvP split, and they first started kind of putting a couple ones in, we were like, whoa, what's going on? So the fact that they're putting it out there like, hey, we're going to do this whenever we think it's necessary is probably better in the long run.
I think the big thing that we were all sort of talking about last week, being concerned about, is how complex the game starts becoming at that point, because now you've got, I mean, structured PvP has always been kind of like a very distinctively different part of the game.
Right.
But in WvWs, it always kind of felt like it was just like your PvE character with all the skills and traits and gear and everything like that. Now it sounds as if, that's going to even be broken off as well into its own sort of category.
The one thing that, and we said this last week, the one thing to be concerned with is if they change how a skill works, right? If they're completely different. And it sounds like that all they're going to be doing is tweaking numbers here. And in the same post where they kind of mentioned this, they go on to say, like, our philosophy on that has not changed. We don't want you to have one ability that, you know, shoots fireballs out of your eyes in here and then shoots lightning bolts out of your butt over here. So it's not going to do that.
Can I get
want
those?
that
Can I
skill.
want both of those?
I want that skill split.
Yeah, sorry to split that up, but that just got me
I'm
excited.
sorry.
They're not going to do that, though.
They're
not
not
gonna do that?
awesome of an example. Now I feel gypped. Like I feel
Yeah.
like they have stolen something from me because I can't do that.
Lightning out of my butt and WvWs now has to happen.
I can't shoot fireballs out of my eyes anyway, and I just feel like this game is less because of it. But yeah, so as long as they're sticking with numbers, which it seems like they want to do, they want to make sure that even if it's not the same exact number coming out of your fireball, it's still a fireball that is coming out of whatever orifice you choose. And so I think that's going to be good in the long run, that you can take a character across different types of gameplay and still have the same experience, if not the same exact numbers. So I'm pretty content with that.
Do we have confirmation that there are only number changes? Because I mean, I think we're all assuming that. Because I mean,
they didn't say number changes specifically, but they said that they wanted to. I don't remember the exact words, but they wanted to make sure that the skills weren't undergoing a substantial change.
Yeah, they said something. I mean, it's not an exact thing. It's not, we will never do anything but number changes. But it was something pretty specific that said, you know, we're looking mostly at number changes here. We still have the philosophy that we don't want them to be different, function. We want to just tweak the numbers. So
he said specifically that they want to be consistent across game types. So. Right.
I mean, the direction makes sense. I mean, WvWs is still player versus player, basically, in the end. So it kind of makes sense that they would do that. And hey, if you can get
absolutely.
If you get quickness back to 100% in PvE, it's win-win. So
yeah, and then, like that stealth nerf the stealth nerf we talked about with thieves, having that extra second, they kind of alluded that might be reverted on the PvE side. So things like that can really help players feel better about the changes they make when it actually affects what they want it to affect and not anything else. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it all plays out and see how players kind of fare to it, like learning the game, again, or possibly at a third branch. Making probably for better gameplay, but probably making for slightly more complicated gameplay as well. But hopefully that brings a lot of the PvPers back as well, is that they feel, maybe that's what the PvPers actually really need, is that sort of vote of confidence that the game is just a super, super well balanced in that arena. So next up, John Peters gave Guild Wars 2 Guru some information about the direction of weapons in the future. When they asked him about the possibility of actually customizing and changing the abilities on a weapon, he had this to say. He said, when you're at that high level, you can make those changes potentially. That's where we would expect to do something like that in the future, if we even went there, as opposed to just changing the system. I don't think the system is ever going to change. It may be at higher levels than it's further on in character development that it might expand, but it will never be something that affects early gameplay. What do you guys think? Is this something that you guys, Richie, was this something you'd like to see down the line?
So specifically, like being able to equip a greatsword and not being stuck with just those 5 abilities, like being able to customize that a little bit. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I like the fact that, I don't know. It's hard to say that any customization would be bad, right? Having more options is really good. I would be a little afraid of how complex it would be, but I'm definitely open to it. There are certain weapons, especially the offhand ones, where you only have 2 abilities. If you don't like one of those 2 abilities, you're pretty much never going to use that offhand weapon. So yeah, it would be kind of neat to do. It feels a little bit like a Pandora's box, right? Where it's like, once you open that, what's going to happen? Is it going to be much too hard to balance things? Because it's not just like a greatsword is the same across all of the professions either, right? Now you're talking about giving greatsword more options, and the warrior's options are going to be different than the mesmer's options are going to be different than the ranger's options. And is that just too much? Are we getting into that situation like in Guild Wars 1, where it just got to be too many skills for them to kind of balance? So I don't know. It's Pandora's box, but definitely customization's good.
Liz, what do you think?
Customization is so good.
Yeah, I mean, from players' perspective, right? There's always like that one weapon where like is really awesome, apart from like maybe one ability that you would just love to swap out for something else. So I'm sure from a player perspective, they would absolutely love to be able to mix and match that stuff. I mean, there is always the potential of the the balancing act that they have to play, but
Right. And I think most people would be really excited for that sort of thing. I might just be setting my sights low, but it sounded to me like they were talking about customizing the skills that are already there. So, for example, an early iteration of traits was that you would swap in traits that affected which specific weapon you had. So you could have, say, my flame burst will also have projectiles on it, or my whirling axe will also, put bleeds on people. You could swap in traits that did that sort of thing. And so when I read it, it sounded to me like they were thinking about maybe bringing that system back to where you could say, okay, well, I have these 4 skills or 5 skills, but I want number 4 to also, chill foes, or I want anything that has a projectile to also stun, or whatever other trait you could pop in. So I don't know which way they're going to go with that. It could be very likely that they won't give you like a little drop down and you can swap out 1 skill on each bar and be like, oh, I really hate that leap skill. I want to put in a pull instead. But I personally read it as kind of more of a customization of the skills rather than an actual swap out of skills. That might just be me.
What do you guys think? What do you think about John's statement about not affecting early game? That it absolutely would not. They would not want to affect the early game. Do you guys think that's a good? Kind of agree with it? Would it be too complex?
Well, I think the way Liz is describing it can actually solve both issues, right? If you lay it into the trait system where the customization comes in and it opens up different types of modifications to the skills and stuff like that, then that automatically kind of makes it so that early level it doesn't really complicate things because you don't have a lot of trait points early on. So, I do think. We definitely know that they're sensitive to that, right? They want you to have the 1 skill when you first get the weapon, and that you unlock that, and you do it in an order, and they kind of set it up so that new players don't get lost. But
it kind of makes sense because there's a lot of choices at the early levels that you're kind of doing. You're kind of like as you're leveling up. But I guess after you've got your elite skill after 30, maybe this is something that they would slot in at like level 40 or something.
Absolutely, that'd be super cool. I don't know if they wanted to add like a new sort of personal currency as far as like a new sort of trait point, which I feel like would get way complicated. They're like, yeah, you have traits and attributes and your skill points and also this other thing. So I don't know that they want to add that, but it'd certainly be interesting to have, you get used to your skills as you are, and then once you really know them after about 30 levels, like what's on your skill bar, you can see what you could best augment your gameplay with, like whether it's adding projectiles to something or adding a bleed to 1 skill.
Yeah, I could see in the user interface them doing something like really not basic, but just sort of like going back to what you were saying, Liz, is like, just giving you options, saying here's option 1, here's option 2, maybe here's option 3 or something. These are the 3 you can choose from, which they can control. It's not just like you're just swapping in things in and out from wherever. So it's definitely like a small pool.
I can be like, I want everything to chill everybody all the time, regardless of weapon. And I feel like that would be harder to do if they were actually swapping in different skills for a weapon set, because it'd be really weird to like get to 80 and then be like, oh, suddenly I know a different skill for my greatsword. I haven't used it in the last 80 levels, but I know it now. So I think it could be really weird to introduce something, and that might make people feel like, well, why couldn't I use this from the beginning? Whereas if you're augmenting existing skills, it feels a little more like a natural progression.
And of course, either way they go, people will complain.
Oh, of course.
No matter what, people will complain.
It's gonna happen.
I don't even think there's an argument there. If they did it from level 1 or they slam it in at level 40, it's not going to matter. People will be pissed off. All right, next up. John actually talked about introducing new weapons entirely to the game. So first of all, he clearly stated that there would be no point doing that until they were happy with all the weapons currently in the game. So don't get a golf clap, but don't get your hopes up that much yet. So that makes perfect sense. Piling balance problems on top of balance problems would be absolutely insane. My question is, what MMO ever gets perfectly balanced? Like, when are you ever perfectly happy with everything? Like that will never pretty much happen. They've got to get to a point where they're just like, well, we're kind of in the green zone at this point.
Well, yeah, but I feel like this is very similar to their approach to content release earlier, where they're like, we really want to strengthen the content that exists before we go putting out new dungeon sort of things, because if you have a lot of moderately bugged content and you're putting out new stuff, people are like, but you never fixed the first stuff. What is this? And so I feel like they will eventually get to a point where they say, yeah, balance is pretty okay, but until they get to that point, you don't want to be adding in new things to further complicate the system.
Do new weapons smell like expansion content to you guys, or do you think they would just put this out in a monthly like patch?
I can't
Well,
imagine.
I almost imagine it would be expansion content because we're gonna get to. I was gonna bring that up in a little bit. Is that if you think about it, introducing a new weapon to Guild Wars 2 is like introducing a whole new class. I mean, it's like it's a whole new thing.
It really would change a substantial amount, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of like, you know, in another MMO, if you add that 5 levels of an expansion, right? You get a couple new abilities. Well, adding a new weapon or two to every profession, you know, you don't even have to increase the level cap. You're giving people a lot of new abilities just from doing that. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking though, like, because that would really shock me if all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know, the May patch, we're getting you know,
Happy May.
new weapons for everybody. That would be really shocking. And of course, people would be excited about that, but I kind of think it would be expansion content as well.
I'm
also
gonna have to agree.
Weird, because you have to have at least 1 or 2 weapons, because I don't think there's a single weapon in the game yet that everybody can use. So you can't be like, here, have, you know, a scythe, warriors, and maybe rangers and somebody else. And everyone else is like, but
That would not fly.
I want a scythe. I could use a scythe.
Yeah, it depends really how they do it. I mean, they could potentially. I mean, look at like World of Warcraft doing like legendaries, right? Like they don't release legendaries for every single class, so it's like, and the other classes are usually pissed off about that, but still, like that's kind of, they could do something similar. Well, let me check this. John had this to say. He said, the answer to both of these is yes, but do we want warriors or thieves to have another weapon that is already in the game? And is there a point where we're going to add a completely new weapon, a new set of animations, something that no one else uses right now? So obviously the first one is more likely to happen earlier than the second one is, as it has less dependencies. So existing weapons on new classes as well as completely new weapons. Both sound kind of likely though. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Both are awesome. And the weapon system seems like they always had in mind to add to that whole system. And like I said before, I think a new weapon is kind of close to approaching a whole new class in Guild Wars 2. 5 skills, 5 new skills would literally change everything.
Yeah, and you'd have to imagine that they'd be pretty flashy and cool, right? You don't introduce a new weapon and have it just like kind of suck, because what's the point of that? So you would see a lot of people just drawn to it, and like they said there's gonna be new animations for a lot of the classes. There's gonna be new weapon skins and art for, you know, it would be a big deal for the game. People would be very excited about it. But on the same token, it's a very expensive thing, you know, from a time standpoint, a development time standpoint. So yeah, I think it's I think it's interesting that they're also mentioning adding existing weapons to more classes, which I think especially for like engineers, that's sorely needed. So it'd be interesting to see that.
I think they need a melee option at some point.
Some point, maybe, please.
I
still think they need torches.
Sometime this century, they could get a melee option.
Sometime.
Any weapon stand out to you guys that you'd like to see added to the game?
Oh yeah. We need a great axe for sure.
Great axe for sure. Although it's going to favor the classes that already have a lot of weapon choices, like your ranger or your warrior.
Yep.
I vote whip for necro, thieves, and maybe mesmers. So I'm voting whip for inclusion because they already have whip animations for the Nightmare Court. So you don't even get to complain about that. We already have animations.
As a whipper, it's a Scarlet Blade. I'm playing a whipper in Scarlet Blade. Yeah, they have a whipper.
I think crossbow is another cool one.
Crossbow would be cool. Great axe would be
You can put that into engineers.
Absolutely.
And thieves.
Don't let anyone else have them. Be like, engineers only. And engineers like, yeah, this is the happiest day of my life.
All right, I want to talk about some new stuff in the gem store, but first I want to tell you guys about a great sponsor. Yes, I'm talking about Audible.com. Check out what I'm listening to now. Exile, Legend of Drist's Dark Elf Trilogy, Book 2. Wait, where's my phone?
Are you going to play it for us?
I am.
Is that some sort of copyright infringement, I wonder?
It might
be. If you play enough of it, they suddenly get really
Probably
pissed
enough
off
of it. I don't play enough of it, though. Let's see.
Just sit here and we'll have a 5-hour GuildCast.
Let's play enough of it and see what happens.
Only security, confident of its ability to defeat any foe. Its breath reeked of deadly poison, The hard edges of its claws dug deep gouges into solid stone, and the rows of spear-like teeth that lined its wicked maw could tear through the thickest of hides.
So, yes, another book by R.A. Salvatore, part of the Dungeons & Dragons series. This one narrated by Victor Bavine. Awesome book. This is book 2, Dark Elf Trilogy. A ton of these Dungeons & Dragons books are over on Audible. All you got to do is go on over, use this URL, audible.com/Gamebreaker. Use that URL, sign up today. You're going to get a free book, and you're going to get to use the service absolutely free for 30 days. And you could go download Exile, Legend of Drizzt by R.A. Salvatore today. I highly recommend it. There's a bunch of others on there. Just search out Dungeons and Dragons. You'll find a whole bunch. If you want book 1, it's there as well. So, all right, let's check out this new interesting item in the gem store. A mining pick with a fiery theme that causes basically spouts of lava to burst out of the ground when you mine with it. Anybody pick this up? Pretty original.
Yes,
Yep.
I picked it up.
Are the
Yeah, I
visual
would
effects
pick-
as cool as you'd hoped?
So good. She swings a thing and it's fire, and then there's just fire everywhere, and I'm really happy. I wish it did damage to things standing near me. I understand that would be exploitable, but I wish that like birds would catch on fire.
Yeah.
It's
I showed it to my
purely-
guild last night. They all stood around me in a semicircle. We're like, "Wow, look what that does!"
Yeah, it's super
It's
neat.
purely cosmetic, right? So it has no advantages compared to the standard endgame, like 4 silver mining pick.
Yeah, in terms of what it can mine, correct.
Okay.
It doesn't run out. I mean, that's
Yeah, but we'll talk about it in a second. Like, that's once you get to 56,000 strikes, I'm going to say it's basically infinite for the same amount of cost. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that you're ever going to run out of that for 28 gold worth of Orichalcum picks.
Yeah, it mines the same things and it gives you the same amount. You don't get any kind of advantage like that. So
There's no perk.
more
It's
of
just
a
basically a
convenience.
cosmetic item. Because I think
Yes.
part of the thought process initially when players looked at it was sort of like, can I save money long term by never having to buy a mining pick again?
No.
Not
No.
really, no. I mean, they're super cool, but, and some people are like, no, this is super broken. I'm like, yeah, but they don't make it hard to get picks in the game. Like, 4 silver will buy you an Orichalcum pick with 100 strikes. 24 gold will buy you as many as you're ever going to use in the next couple years, at least. And you can get them for karma. So if you don't have anything to do with karma, and you're like, oh god, I can't spend 4 silver on this pick. Like, you can go to South Sun and get a 100 strike Orichalcum pick for 300 karma.
Yeah. It's one dynamic event.
Yeah. So it's not like this is game breaking in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I put a video out on this on my YouTube channel, and it took 3 seconds for someone to say this is pay to win. I'm like, no, it is not pay to win. It is
It's
not pay to win.
anything.
Stop that.
Pay to win. So yeah, you're going to be swinging this thing for quite some time. So at the current rates right now, you need about 24 gold to buy the 800 gems that the pick is going to cost you and set you back. That translates to what, 60,000 uses before you can break even?
Ish. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
So we're actually hugely in debt at the moment for another 3 years, maybe. I don't know how many picks. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to make that up in cost. But yeah, so good business transaction, ArenaNet. Bad business transaction, Lisbeth.
Pay to win. Pay to win.
Super pay to win.
Super pay to win.
Some people
Consume
are
media
complaining that
correctly.
it's soul bound, not account bound.
Yeah.
Yes. Why do you think?
I
Why do you
mean-
think he did that? I know a lot of players that just kind of rubs them the wrong way a little bit.
They want you to buy more than one.
Yeah, and people actually did that. They're like, I think I'll buy 2. I'm like,
I actually think it works against them, though, because I've seen a lot of people say, and probably Elizabeth, I mean, she still bought one, but if you have 5 or 6 characters and they're all level 80 and you play them all equally, you might not want to buy any of these because you can only use it on one character, and how do you pick? For me, it's a no-brainer. I have one level 80 character and I play that character all the time, but yeah, it might actually work against them for some people.
What would be the so bad about what would it hurt if you actually let players just move it between characters though? I
mean, I guess because I don't think it has a level requirement, so you could, in theory, find an Orichalcum node that you could get a bunch of low-level thieves to, park them there, keep the thing in a world versus world bank, be on a world where you have no queue for that and like swap in and out so you never have to actually buy one, but that seems like so convoluted that I don't know anyone would do it.
It's a lot of work.
So I don't really know if it's to keep exploits from that happening, if it's to, like, some people have bought multiple ones, so I don't know if they were just like, hey, let's see if we can make this work and, like, get $20 instead of 10, in which case, you did, congratulations, go you, sort of thing.
What do you think, Rich? Is there can you think of anything that possibly would be a reason for them not to allow players to just pass it back and forth between your characters?
I think it's solely because if they make it passable between your characters, then the most they will ever get out of this is one per account. That's it. It's
Except for lazy people.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I think that's it right there. They're going to have some people who are going to buy one of those for every one of their characters. That's just it. So, Well,
check it out. Also, hey, I would imagine that most of the people watching this show own Guild Wars 2. But if for some reason you are not an owner of Guild Wars 2, maybe this is your first time you're watching the show. If you are, welcome. Maybe you're just watching the show because you love Gamebreaker, but you don't play Guild Wars 2. We've got free weekend access keys available. This is for this coming up weekend. So if you go over to Gamebreaker TV and just search for Guild Wars 2 free access weekend, it should come right up. But basically, you can come over here. The weekend is going to start April 19th at 12, end on the 21st. This is for people who have never purchased Guild Wars 2. You can get a key, and oh wait, it's over. Sorry. Wow, blew that. I think we have keys. This wasn't even a joke. I didn't realize it was over.
Yeah.
Maybe some of our mods have keys. I don't know. I think there are keys left. I will look. All right, so here's the thing. Follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon. Follow Gamebreaker TV on Facebook at facebook.com/GamebreakerTV. I am almost sure there are keys, and if there are keys, I will start just dropping them randomly all over our social networks, because I'm pretty sure there might be some keys left. I think we did the initial contest where we pushed a bunch of them out, but I think there are some left. I don't know. Yes, Q in our chat room is telling us, yes, there are keys left. So follow our socials, and we'll Q drop if you have any. I don't know if you have any. Bomb the chat room, because that was total derp. Awkward. We have keys. I promise. We'll give some more away. All right,
I would have felt really lied to.
I totally was just lying to everybody. I didn't realize. I didn't know it was over.
Hey guys, let's break your heart. You want to chance keys? There are none.
I'll blame the producer Dom on that one, because he's got in the show notes to do the plug for the Guild Wars 2 keys, and I just I'm Ron Burgundy. All right, everybody, hide your kids, hide your wives. You guys get this email? Don't click on this link in your email. ArenaNet have been warning people about a widely circulated email making the rounds that claims that ArenaNet think that you are trying to sell your account and that you are in serious trouble. Our amazing executive producer on the show here, who derped on our show notes, has been getting this email multiple times. I have not gotten this email, but I have to say, you haven't gotten it either? One thing I will follow up with this is that Guild Wars 2 is not the only game that this is happening to, because what I have gotten in the past week is I've gotten basically this exact same style email, funny enough, for RuneScape. That I'm trying to sell. It's like, we are aware that you are trying to sell your RuneScape account. This is highly illegal. But
how dare you?
No, but so I've never been caught with one of these scams before. I was this close to clicking the link because it's done so well. The email looks great, and what I really thought,
proper English.
It's total proper English. It looked really great. It had a good URL. Like, it was really quality done. And the reason that they were sort of, the way that they phrased it was to something to the extent of, hey, if you are not doing this, or this is, your account to claim this, like, click the link to verify something. And like, I came so close because the email was done so good. So basically, seriously, people, if you're getting this for Guild Wars 2 or any other game, don't click the link. Just don't click the link.
Don't be my dad and click every one of those emails and then call
that's
me.
Really bad. Yeah, exactly. I got hacked and I'm not sure why.
Let me see if I can find this while we're talking. So none of you guys have not gotten this email?
No, I have not.
They're bad. They're bad. This was a really good one.
It used to be the type of thing where you could look at the you can kind of like add it to your contacts and then see where it really came from, right? But they can even fake that sometimes now. So it has gotten harder to notice things. But I'm suspicious of every friggin' email now. It just drives me nuts.
I don't click on anything.
I can't find it now.
Take my account. I'll call customer service if it's actually a problem.
Because they spoofed even the URL somehow. Like, I don't remember what it said, but it said like runescape.com. Like, it said something.
And it just had a different redirect. Yeah.
It had a redirect, and that was the only reason I knew. Is like I hovered over something and then looked and like checked the link. Actually, I think I even went into the view source on the page and looked to find it. But I was so close to being your dad, Richie. I was so close.
That is a very strange thing for you to say. I don't know how I feel about that.
Paradox.
All right, so, but if you guys have got this email, please watch out, because it seems like it's really widespread, and the word of warning that it seems like it's also coming in from a bunch of other games. So I would imagine that these groups are probably multiple groups doing it, hitting multiple games, and just don't click the link. And don't be Richie's dad.
Or else you'll be Richie's dad.
Don't be
And nobody wants that.
No one wants that. All right, last week we ripped the leaderboards apart. They were, true to ArenaNet's word, they are improving it. So one of the most glaring and obvious errors that we talked about last week on the first incarnation of the leaderboards was pretty much that basically, 99.9% of you out there probably had nothing useful to do with it. So you probably were not on it. But that's changed. So what's new? What did they do? What did they update this week?
You can view the leaderboards as it pertains to your friends or your guilds. So, for example, I know that I'm solidly in the middle of all of my guilds as far as achievement points are concerned. Which is... so, yeah, you can filter it for more personal options, which is why it has the little login here for customization, which we were really curious about last week because it did nothing. So, good job making good on that, ArenaNet. I'll let you slide on this one.
They obviously watch our show, right? They're like,
Clearly.
oh, we should do that.
Why did we put that login thing there?
Yeah, so you log in now, and it actually now has the personal information. It puts your kind of name above it all, so you can see where you kind of compare.
Yeah. So, yep.
It'd be great to only have, the only problem is, I show, after the first 1,000 that are people that are ranked, it shows you as a percentage, so you kind of know roughly where you fall. So I'm at 90%. Yeah. Whatever. I would like that to be a little bit more granular, but maybe that's coming next. So.
Well, obviously, we know there's still plenty more to do, but ArenaNet seemed to be on top of it, and obviously they're making changes quite rapidly. So I don't think any of us doubted that. So we'll just keep checking on that and see how that rolls out. On the Super Adventure themed weapon front, you better get them. What sounds like this month. So Josh Foreman said, "Nothing is certain, but I'm pretty sure these ones will only be around for this month." So I mean, we don't know yet. Do we have any confirmation? I think we're expecting Adventure Box to stick around or at least come back.
Or at least come back. I'm kind of thinking it'll come back rather than sticking around.
But it sounds like the weapon skins that we've got right now kind of sounds unlikely from what Josh says, but we don't know.
Yeah, we know they're working on different skins, like the rifle and the pistol and dagger. They didn't make it around this time. So it sounds like when they bring Adventure Box back with the new world, it's going to have new rewards in there, and the old ones will kind of be retired. And I'm just kicking myself because I sold the skins I got luckily out of the boss boxes, and the prices went through the roof after this announcement. I'm like, no, fail. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I think it's a great idea to make them actually special, though. So I like the idea that they're going to go away.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I snagged the shield. The shield looks awesome, and it's cool that in a few weeks it'll be mine and not yours.
Yeah, I feel like I need to grab another one before they leave so that I have something else to feel good about myself for.
Pick them up. Get them before they're gone. All right, let's do some viewer questions. If you guys have questions for the GuildCast crew, make sure to send them in to submit. Not 3 times, just submit once. At Gamebreaker.tv.
Please stop typing that. I sent it in to submit, and I don't understand why they're not answering my question ever. I feel lied to.
I'm lying a lot on this show. This is the show of lies. Send it in to submit at Gamebreaker.tv. And we love video questions. If you guys have a video question, record yourself, post it up on YouTube, shoot us the link to submit at Gamebreaker.tv. And we will be sure to show it on the show. Well, we won't be sure, so I'm lying again. So we won't be sure to show it on the show. We'll show it on the show if it's good. All right, first up this week from Eric Taylor. Eric says, what would you suggest that someone who is having waning interest do to rekindle their fire for the game? Rich, what do you think?
I think probably the best thing to do is if you have friends or guildmates that are still playing and they're kind of feeling similar to you, one of the things that I did with my group of friends is we set a night, right? We're going to play this night at this time. We're going to try to do it every week. We actually missed the past couple of weeks, and we're just going to do something. We're going to run fractals. We're going to run some sort of dungeon, because if you're just logging in and just looking for something to do, then that might be a little bit hard. But if you have people that are going to be in on a certain time, it actually is a lot more fun. So you open up, whether you're going to do world versus world or you're going to queue for some PvP or do some dungeons or whatever, at least you know that you have some friends online at the exact same time and you're all looking to do something in the game. So that's my recommendation.
Liz, any recommendations?
Eric, you should play something other than Guardian, just in case, maybe that class is gotten stale for you. But it really does depend on what it is you want out of the game, because, for me, it actually really, not that I was, thinking about walking away from Guild Wars 2, but it really rekindled my interest to start playing PvP and to try a couple tournament matches, because I found out that I really enjoyed that, even though I'm not super great. So trying new things is cool.
And my recommendation would be we'll wait.
Submit.
Wait.
For the Gamebreaker Nation, which is coming very soon. You join the Gamebreaker Nation. There's tons of shit to do. There's gonna be tons of people to do it with, and maybe events and everything else as well.
Nice.
What if people are like, "What the f is the Gamebreaker Nation?" Exactly.
It's coming.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Next up from Eduardo Ramirez. Eduardo, I got a question in this week. My man Eduardo.
Eduardo.
You know Eduardo? You gotta know Eduardo. You don't watch After Dark.
I like.
You have to watch After Dark.
No, I do watch After Dark. I know.
Okay, everybody should watch After Dark.
This before? I'm pretty sure he has.
Yeah, he has. But I just want to plug After Dark. It's the live show with Mike Shafton and Josh Allen. The live call-in video game show where people call in live and they answer questions. Eduardo's like a regular. Basically a host at this point. Eduardo asks, he says, do you think the esports pro teams that abandoned Guild Wars 2 will return if ArenaNet implements a spectator mode? Good question. What do you think, Liz?
I don't think spectator mode on its own is going to bring people back. I think that a host of interconnected features that support structured PvP will do that. I don't think it's if they only had this one thing, everybody would be flocking back. I think that commentator mode or spectator mode is a big part of that, and I feel like that'll really help, but I don't know that's the one thing keeping people away from it. So we talk about this, I feel like every time structured PvP comes up, they need a lot of stuff, and they're putting it in bit by bit by bit, and I really hope that it works to bring people back.
And I'm going to go to you in a second, but I'm watching chat room and I want to just put something it is kind of unfortunate that this all happened like this with PvP, because I see a couple people in the chat room asking a question going wait, there were pro teams. That's kind of the unfortunate thing, is that PvPers were so excited for Guild Wars 2 PvP that they were putting together teams already and trying to get really top level players to kind of make what they were calling pro teams. They really wanted to kind of help push the esports thing forward, and then it just all kind of fizzled. So yes, there were teams that were really trying to put themselves together in that position. So, but what do you think? Can spectator mode save it?
Yeah, I agree with Elizabeth that spectator mode alone is not going to be it. It's going to be all these features we've been hearing about, custom arenas, the tournament structure and different things like that. But it also, I think it's going to be ArenaNet's commitment to it, right? If they can balance some things separate than PvE and World versus World, like we talked about earlier, and put these features in the game, and they see that ArenaNet is committed to putting this in, I think there is a real market for it, because the esports arena is it's dominated by MOBAs and real-time strategies, and there's not a huge amount of this kind of gameplay in there, and I think there's room for it. So I think it can still succeed in that, but the pro teams are going to need to see ArenaNet really make good on a lot of the promises that they've been waiting for the good part of the year. So.
Last up this week from Paul. Paul says, should I wait for a precursor scavenger hunt or grind dungeons for the 700 plus gold for the hunter?
Oh, I feel for this question so much. I ask myself that. I ask myself that every day.
If you're gonna grind, don't grind dungeons. I mean, except for Cough, they're not a super great return on investment. So grind meta events and grind ore, but don't do stuff you don't like for something you want.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, this is my strategy. I'm not saying this is great or anything. I'm not committing any of the resources towards the precursor. I am slowly playing the game and working on everything else that I need. And if it comes to the point where I have most of everything to craft a legendary, and we haven't heard anything about scavengers, okay, then I drop the money, buy the precursor, and craft it. But if it comes to the point where I've got all these materials, and then we hear something about the scavenger hunt, then I'm gonna, I'll go that way. So I'm being very non-committal with my resources at this point.
Yeah. If/when I go for a second legendary, oh god, I'm going to save my money until there's a precursor hunt, the scavenger hunt. So if I have all 700 stupid gold for it before then, great. If it comes along when I'm most of the way there, I'll be like, all right, I'll do the scavenger hunt and suddenly not be broken after I get my legendary. Cool. So.
Elizabeth Claire, follow her on the Twitter at Elizabeth Claire with an X, and of course go over to massively.com and read all her amazing work over there on the Massively. That is Elizabeth Claire with an X. Richie Procopio, you can follow him on the Twitter with Richie at Richie Procopio, and of course go over to his YouTube channel, which is Bog Otter. There's some not World of Warcraft. I got World of Warcraft in the brain right now. For Guild Wars 2 videos. I got World of Warcraft in the brain because we have a new World of Warcraft show. I'll plug that as well. Watch Conspiracy Craft. Brand new World of Warcraft lore show right here on Gamebreaker TV. Why are you shrugging? You shrugging? You shrugging off the World of Warcraft?
I like the name.
Lots of
Conspiracy Craft.
We do the show live every single Wednesday at 6 PST. Come on over, watch the live show. And like I said, follow our socials, and we'll be dropping more free access weekend keys that's coming up this weekend. So if you guys don't have Guild Wars 2, be on the lookout. We'll be dropping a bunch of keys all over the place over the next 2 to 3 days. So have a great week. Thanks so much for watching. Gamebreaker Nation's coming. We'll see you next week for some more GuildCast.